How do you identify what's next?
I just read a lot, right? I'm just one of those guys that just consumes information, mostly tech, but it could be anything. Steve Jobs had this one quote that really stuck with me. He said, everything's a remix. And if you look at the early days of the Apple products, there was this company back in the day called Xerox PARC. And Xerox came out with the first mouse-driven PC, but their marketing sucked and they had no idea what they were doing. No one knew what they were about. Steve Jobs came in, a little bit of this, a little bit, remixed, and bam, right? All of a sudden you got Apple and then a Macintosh. And for me, the more you learn, the more you know how to remix. And that's what this is all about. So how do you go from YouTube, which was the first platform for video that got big, to Instagram, to Snapchat, and know, okay, do I want to be on Discover? Do I want to be on Reels? Do I want to be on TikTok? And if I do this, how's YouTube going to treat me? And all the decisions you guys have got to make on a daily basis.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because the thing that saved me as an entrepreneur was watching the stories of other successful entrepreneurs, and I learned from their advice, I learned from their motivation, and honestly, I have no idea where I would be if I didn't have those videos to inspire me. I still need them for myself today too, and I hope that they can inspire you as well. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mark Cuban, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
And the fact that, like we were just talking, you created all these products and you want it to be organic, that's a business decision too. And then you have to learn by trial and error, right? You were curious about what might work. Obviously you're walking proof of what does work, right? And now you've got to be able to continue to make those decisions. Because in this business with all the margins on these products, everybody's coming at you all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they think they can do the exact same thing, but it's not that easy. But for me, it's like, that's why I try to stay ahead, because whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's VR, whether it's crypto, whether it's metaverse, all these things may not be prime time yet, but I want to know when they will be, and I want to be out front when they are.
Rule number 2 is know how to sell.
You got to sell.
Yeah.
Because in my experiences, the CEOs, the owners, the founders that didn't sell, they all failed.
Yeah.
With no exceptions, 100% of them failed. And, when you're just starting and it's just you, who else is going to sell?
Nobody.
And that's the other, and that leads to another mistake entrepreneurs make. They try to hit hiring home runs, right? So the minute they hit a roadblock, I'll just hire I'll hire a new marketing person, right? Or I'll hire a new head of sales. Thinking that, this person's amazing. No one's ever hired somebody and said they suck really bad.
Of course not.
Right? Oh, I found the most amazing person. Why'd they leave their last 5 jobs? Oh, they were amazing, but right?
That's such a good point. See, that's what I love how your brain works. It's like it's so true. It's so practical and common sense.
It's pragmatic, yeah, right?
It's common sense, but common sense isn't so common.
No, I know. You just ask why'd they leave? But entrepreneurs tend to think, okay, I'm hiring this amazing marketing person and he or she is going to know what to do.
Yep.
And then they tell that to their investors, because that's typically why they're hiring a marketing person. And they say, this person's amazing. Our next quarter is going to be great. And then it's not. Then they go to the next marketing person.
Totally.
Then they're in this hamster wheel again and they're screwed. And it's the
also
same
relying on other people.
Well, yes. And that's the whole thing, right? You've got to be able to solve the problems yourself.
Self-reliant.
Now, at some point your business gets bigger and you have to learn how to do a lot of other things. When you go to 5 people, it's one thing. You go to 10 or 15, it's another challenge, as you learn how to manage and deal with people. But at the same time, if you're not great at your core competency, how are you going to train those people?
Right.
How are you going to know what the goals are for the organization and how to communicate to them, how to do what you need them to do?
Rule number 3 is learn about crypto.
Thinking about the next big opportunity in the cryptocurrency space. And to your credit, you were around for DeFi summer. DeFi was a big opportunity in 2020. You were early in saying Ethereum and NFTs is, possibly going to be really big, and it was really big. After cryptocurrency finds a bottom, do you have any thoughts about the next big opportunity in the space?
It just comes down to applications. If you guys got great ideas, I'm wide open, right? I'm tired of the bullshit pitches I'm getting, like new DeFi for new, there's a great analogy between what happened in Silicon Valley with SaaS software and other applications, even like Uber, right? Where tons of money came in and subsidized all these apps. Uber is just now starting to make money 15 years, whatever it is, 12 years later. There's other apps that same thing. And so what happened with apps like I was an investor in Box, and I actually wanted them to just generate revenue as opposed to raise money to subsidize free online storage. And so they went their way, they bought me out, and it took them, I don't even know how many years for them to make money. I'm never a big fan of raising hundreds of millions of dollars to do tens of millions in business, but that's exactly what happened in crypto. But crypto was distorted because people looked at the token valuations. And so what would happen is they go out and do a token sale and generate a bunch of capital, or even worse, they'd raise hundreds of millions of dollars from VCs and use that money to create a fake yield, right? We saw that with Anchor, right? Where it was like, okay, we're offering you 20%. And then they hoped that they'd be able to generate enough loans to cover the 20%. Never came close. All that yield was subsidized. All those 5, 7, 8, 10, 20, 50, 90, 100% yields have always been subsidized by investors. Now with those investors not willing to subsidize anymore, you're not seeing the crazy yields. And you're not even seeing the inflationary yields from the blockchains anymore. Where you would say, okay, if you stake this, we're going to pay you 4% or 8% or 12%. And they can't even afford to do that because, if you inflate too much, there's not enough intrinsic demand to cover that inflation, and your token price is going to drop. And that makes your investors mad. That makes your speculators mad. And it ignores the fact that to be a real business, you have to be a real business. And crypto doesn't change any of that.
Rule number 4 is seize opportunities.
COVID, you have said, has changed the world in terms of opportunities. It's obviously hurt people, but it's obviously helped people who are entrepreneurial. So you've said this is a good time to actually figure out new businesses, new areas of business. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it's so unfortunate, but it's true. I mean, we've heard Warren Buffett say, buy when there's blood in the streets. And it's almost analogous here. So many small businesses are closing. So many, retail stores are closing. Malls are going bankrupt. Companies that are unable to transition to selling digitally or really taking full advantage of e-commerce are struggling. Big companies aren't sure about how to protect their legacy businesses. That type of uncertainty creates a lot of opportunity. And combine that with people becoming far more comfortable with purchasing online and living a digital lifestyle, I think there's a lot of unique opportunities that are available to people who are creative, who have a vision for the future. I think, 10, 15, 20 years, we'll look back and there'll be 10, 20, 30 world-class companies that were created by people who we probably are thinking are crazy right about now.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is utilize your resources.
I have a question for you. Do you think that people, because I also know that you kind of came from nothing.
Just a normal family, yeah.
You weren't
yeah.
handed anything.
No, nothing.
Do you think it's harder for people now to reach the level of success that you have because of a saturation?
No. I think it's easier.
You think it's easier now?
I think it's easier. I mean, let's look at y'all, right? You all have good idea, good connection to people, right? Just went for it. And when other people might say you do A, B, and C, or you should do A, B, and C, you did D, E, and F, right? Yeah. And found your angle. And, the only thing that can stop you is, would it work? Or, was it a good idea or not? And that's the thing, you have so many tools. Like back in the day, you had to buy these big computers and, it was more expensive. Now you get a laptop or an iPad and you get an internet connection and you can have any tech company.
The world's yours
you want.
right now,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Social media too.
And I mean, look what we're doing now, right? We're doing this and you're going to have it up on YouTube and streaming it and millions of people are going to be able to get to it.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're spending millions of dollars like a TV show or a movie would have been 25 years ago, right? It's actually easier. Now, on one hand, the tools are cheaper and more accessible. The other hand, there's more competition.
Rule number 6 is learn to manage your time.
How do you do all of this? I mean, honestly, like your schedule between the Shark Tank, all those companies doing like these things. I mean, like, what time are you waking up in the morning?
5:36.
Like, what's the day? Like, give me a day in the life of you.
I probably should admit this, but like I'll get up at 5:36, particularly during the school year when my kids are going to school.
You have 3 kids
Yeah,
too.
12, 15, and 18. Yeah.
Are you involved? Do you see these kids? Because
Yes.
how are you able to do all of
I don't
this?
travel that much unless they're out doing stuff. So
Really?
like right
Okay.
now, my middle daughter, Alyssa's at camp. My wife and my youngest son, Jake, who's 12, are in Iceland right now. They went on a trip because while I'm shooting Shark Tank, that's when they all know to go do their trips.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And then my oldest is on a trip as well. So with her class. And so so while we're shooting, they're gone. And so that's when I pack everything in.
And then you do everything.
Yeah. But otherwise, I can do 1 day trips here or 1 day trips there because, I'd rather spend time with my family.
So you are like, you spend a lot of time with your,
Yeah, of course.
You can have
that's
both?
the best. Yeah, that's the best part of my life.
Okay,
yeah.
so tell me the day. Give me your day. Like you wake up at, you said 6 o'clock.
Yeah, so wake up. Yeah, 5:36. Do say hi to everybody. Gets everybody going to school if that's what's up, and then do my email and typically get back in bed. Do my email. Get through any emergencies. Go back, take a nap.
Rule number 7 is never be afraid to try.
What's the worst idea you've ever had?
So like right out of school, I got fired from a job, and then I was trying to come up with something to sell, and it was powdered milk. And it was just, I'm like, well, people need to save money on milk. So, if it doesn't taste quite as good, no, I learned the hard way. That didn't last a week. What other shit have I fucked up? I mean, it's just, I'm like everybody else still, right? It's just like, you'll think of something.
Yeah.
And you'll start thinking about it, and then you'll Google it, right? And you'll see if it's out there. It's not, no one's done this before. Then you'll tell your guys or your friends, like, okay, that's not bad.
Gain a little traction that way, a little bit of confidence. Yeah.
But then you got to try to actually get someone to buy it, right? And that's always the hard part. And what people forget, when you go out there and start Googling and it's not there, there's a pretty good chance it's because they went out of business, right? And it's already been there. But I've had plenty of bad ideas. But that's okay, man. Like I tell everybody, you only got to be right once.
Yeah.
No one remembers
100%.
like how many times I screwed up. Just got to be right once.
Rule number 8 is spend time with family.
What do you do on your free time? Like when you can do anything.
Yeah, now it's my kids, right? My kids are 12, 15, and 18. So I'm at that spot now where like going to play one-on-one with my son is pretty cool. Just, my 18-year-old daughter is getting ready to go to college. So just getting any of her time is cool. And then my middle daughter is just unique, man. She's crazy and I love hanging time. So that's really like my number one priority now.
If it wasn't family and if it was not business, what do you enjoy the
Play
most?
golf?
I'm not a golfer. I hate golf, but I play pickup basketball. So like a couple times a week, I'll go play pickup basketball, go work out, go hang with my friends, whatever, chill. But now, it's family and business and working out more than anything else.
Rule number 9 is grow organically.
Would you say the number one, not to pivot that hard, but like, would you say the number one reason why people are failing then is because their lack of ability to work hard and to kind of dig in? What would it be?
No, I'd say they're misguided and they lie to themselves when they start. Right? Oh, I think this business is good. Everybody goes through that same process with a new business. Hey, what do you think about this idea?
Right.
Then you go on Google and you look up, I don't see it. It's great. Of course, no one tells you that it's not there because 50 companies have failed doing the same thing.
Right.
And there's nothing left to show that they died. But, then you get excited, you check with your friends, and then they try to raise money.
Yeah.
That's what screws them up, right? Raising money is not an accomplishment, it's an obligation.
Yeah.
If at all possible, you want to start just organically with sweat equity. Those are the best businesses because you get to retain 100% of it.
Right.
And there's no rush. And then the second mistake people make is they push the top line instead of the bottom line or gross margin dollars.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm $1 million in sales, like that's an accomplishment, or 10 million. Or like if you've raised funding, you have your quote unquote KPIs, right?
Yep.
Right. Or what's the new one? QOKs or something. There's something ridiculous that QKP. I don't know. They always come up with these acronyms.
What is it?
QKP. I don't know.
Okay.
Just the one I started seeing. And so everybody's like, oh yeah, and they think it's an accomplishment if you're doing, I went from 1 million to 5 million in sales. Okay, that's somewhat great, but what matters is what's your gross margin.
Right.
Because if you're in that hamster wheel where you're growing, but you need to keep on raising money to grow.
Right. That's not good.
No, we see what's happening now when people can't raise money, you're done. And while others have said, well, I've, raised 30 million or 50 or $100 million, unless you have a really good reason, that your relativity space and you need to raise money because you're building, 80-foot tall 3D printers.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to do that out of your basement. But for most entrepreneurs, it's something where it's an arbitrage on their time.
Yeah.
Right. I can do this more efficiently than Jen or Mark can. So it's worth it for Jen or Mark to buy this product or service from me so that they can use their time more efficiently.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is invest wisely.
How do you know, is it a gut feeling when you're investing in somebody to say, I think they can do it, or
Yeah, I mean, I can tell. I've done this so many times that different people have different qualities, the fight they've been through, but, and really it's not just the fight, but it's how little they talk about the fight. I have a rule that the longer the backstory, the worse the investment. So there's a lot of people who've been through a lot of challenges and a lot of difficulties, and they want to tell you about it, right? And that's all they want to talk about. Whereas with Arlen, I got a glimpse of her backstory, but she started talking about the company she's investing and why. Yeah. And, she knew what she was doing. And more importantly, she was able to give me access to entrepreneurs that I couldn't get access to on my own. And that really was the clincher. I'm not a big mentor guy. I've always been a believer that if you really want to learn something and be great at something, you have to put in the time. A lot of people look for mentors as shortcuts, when in reality, maybe they help you a little bit, maybe they help you avoid some mistakes, but when you're just getting started out in particular, it's okay to make those mistakes. And more importantly, you have to make the commitment to put in the time to learn what you need to learn to be great at something or good at what you want to be good at.
You almost have to have that drive. In other words, you can't fake it. You can't pretend that you want to read about Ted Turner and, okay, I'll skip one movie. Well, it has to be in your soul.
Yeah, you can fake it till you make it in a lot of areas, particularly if you're working for somebody else. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be great at something, you've got to make the effort to be great at something. Whether it's sports, whether it's physics, math, science, business, whatever it may be, it's not just a natural skill. You've got to learn, and particularly if you're in the technology industry, because it changes every day. When I got started, and after I was a bartender when I first came to Dallas, got into the PC industry, got fired, started my own company, but I learned early on that there was always something new, and most people didn't put in the time to learn it. It's like now with artificial intelligence. Lots of people talk about artificial intelligence. Lots of people talk about machine learning and neural networks. Not a lot of people are putting in the time to take classes or do the tutorials or to learn how to apply it to business. And that's what it takes. And that's just something I've always enjoyed. So I've been fortunate at that.
Now let's pretend that you're just about to graduate from college. Right. What's the advice?
You don't need the perfect job. Part of the problem is you probably have $100,000 of debt, right? And you got to pay off for all that shit. And that's really f***ed up. It's hurt the economy. It hurts everybody. But my advice, general advice, is assuming there's not just the bills you got to pay that are just enormous, is you paid all that money to learn. Now here's your chance to get paid to learn. And you don't need the perfect job. You need to get a job where you can make some money, but also where you can learn and add it to your portfolio of knowledge, add it to your foundation, because as much as we want to think that we know exactly what our mission in life is and what our chosen profession is going to be at 22, hell no. There's just no chance that the 30-year-old or even the 25-year-old is going to look back at the 21 or 22-year-old you and say, oh, that dude had it all together, knew exactly what was up, right? He's going to look back and go, beer pong, what were you thinking, And so don't expect to have all the answers and don't try to get the perfect job. Go out there and get paid to have different experiences, and it's okay to jump from job to job if it's not the right job. You are getting paid to learn, flip it, and then use that to build your knowledge and learn more about yourself, learn how to learn in business, and see where it can take you.
How people perceive entrepreneurs is changing dramatically, and how entrepreneurs are contributing to society is changing right now as we speak, and I see it on Shark Tank, right? Companies coming on Shark Tank now, particularly from younger entrepreneurs, have a social component. Right? You don't want to buy something unless you think the company is contributing. Right. And even more so now, a lot of people are saying, you know what, if you're an entrepreneur and you happen to get rich, that's bad. Right? And so entrepreneurs, people particularly my generation, have kind of segregated themselves into, okay, just get me all the money I can, into, okay, there's can be such a thing as compassionate capitalism. And really, it's falling on you guys now to set the message. If you are going to be an entrepreneur, having a social component is good. Being a compassionate entrepreneur is better. Because when you can change things, when you can hire people, like I had to go back through the companies that I control now, and I said, I wanted to make sure that nobody who works for, in particular the Arena and the Mavs, is on public assistance. Because it's wrong, I think it's wrong, that somebody who works for me doesn't make enough money to be on public assistance. That's the type of attitude I think that needs to change now with entrepreneurs. And that's now becoming part of your responsibility, and I think that's critically important. You know, guys like me, women like me can look and backtrack and backfill and where we've made mistakes, and I've made plenty and I've learned from them. But it's your opportunity, and I think it's critically important to recognize that you are going to set the tone for how people perceive entrepreneurs going forward. And if you introduce compassion and you look at the needs of the people that work for you right from the beginning, I think you're going to have stronger companies, less turnover, and better results.
You may not be a leader to anybody more than the two people who work for you, but it's still a responsibility. And I think as you gain more success, however you define that, being a leader becomes more and more important. How you define success becomes more and more important. What you're able to do and the impact you're able to have becomes more and more important. Where I am in my life at this point, it means trying to accomplish things that I've dreamed about but was never in a position to try to accomplish or succeed at, and that's what I'm trying to do now.
There's a Shark Tank company from last season called Mush, right? Cool stuff. It's like this oatmeal that they package. It's fresh dried oatmeal that they package with a little spoon, and it has to be refrigerated, but you just grab it and go. And the response was great from the show, and now, like I just saw their numbers, they went from 50,000 in sales to 100,000 to 125,000 in 3 straight months. It's not scale, but they're growing, right? And they all of a sudden are like, okay, we got to go raise money and we got to do yada, 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 right? Scale is hard not just because of the economic cost, but also because of the people cost and the mind share cost. It's hard when you're dealing with a major company, and in particular if you're dealing with a big company like a Walmart or Costco or whatever, because you only get one shot at those guys. And so like I told Mush with Whole Foods, they're interested. I'm like, you're not ready. You're not ready. You have got to crawl before you ball, and so I told him it's going to be painful not to go after that big customer, but think about what happens if you go after it and A, it's going to take capital you don't have and you're going to borrow it, or B, it doesn't work out and they return it all. Then all of a sudden you're out of business. And so you're right that you need capital to scale, but you also need the confidence that you can scale and that you can keep your customers happy. And so I always tell people, get to the point where you've taken care of the customers that you can take care of. Once you can demonstrate that, then you can get smart money, and you're talking from a position of power. And then you can go to the Walmarts of the world, the Costcos, and you may not even have to raise money. They may even provide PO leverage or PO support or connect you with a bank that does. And so I guess what I'm saying is don't get too far ahead of yourself, because sometimes sales can be a lot more expensive than you think they are. And you've got to be careful. I've seen
several of my Shark Tank companies try to get too big too fast, and it almost put them out of business.
You've never been shy to speak up on issues that are important to you.
Yep.
And one of those themes I've found has been around fairness. And whether that's, calling out referees for not calling games consistently, or, calling out a Shark Tank contestant because you think that they're scamming their customers. Right. How do you decide what you're going to speak up on, or do you hold inside?
It's changed over the years because I have kids, because social media, Twitter in particular, is so much different, and has changed kind of the rules of engagement. It's changed because of what I went through with the Mavericks last year. I missed a sexual harassment problem that we had because I took my eye off the ball. And so, I try to be self-aware and try to put myself in the shoes of the person or people or organization I'm talking about, whether it adds value. I try to put myself in my own position. How's it going to be perceived? And, is it worth it? Will it create more good than challenges? Right. And so you've got to pick your spots.
Do you own any FUBU shirts?
No.
Why not?
I threw them away. I used to.
You once said you try to read about 3 hours every day.
Yes.
That's a lot of books. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
I've written 5 books. Have you read any of them?
No. I promoted them, but never read.
Why not?
Next.
What about Lori Grenier's book, Invent It, Sell It, Bank It? Did you read that?
She wrote a book?
What about Robert Herjavec's book, Driven?
Robert could write?
Did you ever read the 50 Shades of Grey series?
No, but fun fact, there's a picture of me in the first movie.
Really?
For real?
Telling the truth.
Yeah.
What are you looking for when you get pitched? Like you get pitched on television, you get
everywhere.
pitched in your real life, you clearly
I
answer
get
your DMs.
pitched in the restaurants and restrooms,
bathroom,
you name. I look for something that makes me think, why didn't I think of that? Or it makes me think, oh my goodness, that's a good idea. And then the follow-up questions are, is it differentiated enough? Can they protect it? What's the unique element? And then the secondary part to that, or not even secondary, the other part of it is, how good an entrepreneur is and can I help them? And so once I get past those initial hurdles, whether it's Shark Tank or just, people emailing me, literally, I've invested well over $100 million into companies for people I've never met to this day.
Interesting.
My dad did upholstery on cars. My mom did whatever odd jobs. But my dad was always like, if you want something, you have to earn it. And to his credit, he never said, no, you can't do that. So whether it was selling garbage bags, baseball cards, stamps, whatever it was, he never held me back. And so I think that was as important as anything. And, sometimes being young and trying things, you're so naive and you don't know any better. All you do is learn. And if you fail, it doesn't matter. And so whether I was 9, 10, 12, 16, 21, the failures were irrelevant. And, whether you're, 9, 12, 16, 21, 22, 24, I'm sleeping on the couch. I have a car with a hole in the floorboard. I'm living like a bum and like a student. And so what did I have to lose? And so I think that influenced me as much as anything. So, it was, my dad was like, go for it. Why not? What have you got to lose? You have to sleep on a different couch.
What industry you think still requires a lot of innovation?
All of them. Seriously. I mean, look, one of my dad's favorite sayings was, you don't live in the world you were born into. Everything changes all the time. And you know what's better than change? Creating change. And so whenever I see something that's done the way it's always been done, like when I got to the NBA, my whole goal is just to F things up, right? Because everything was done the exact same way. They thought they were in the business of basketball. For 50 years, they thought they were in the basketball business. No. When you go to a basketball game, you don't remember the jump shots, the dunks. You remember who you were with, the fun you had. It's one of the few industries where that ball is in the air at the end of a game. Everybody holds their breath. And if it goes in, you're hugging people you've never seen before. So you can take any industry and look at the way things have been done and try to come up and innovate. And, and like I said, with just the nature of capitalism right now and all the changes that are required, every industry needs change, and there's a unique opportunity that I don't think any generation's ever seen.
I think people will always stop me and say, well, I want to start a business, what should I do? And if you don't know, you're not ready.
Right.
You know, you've got to have something that you're good at. And if you're going to do it, you got to be the best at it. Because I'll tell them, look, if I come in and compete with you, I'm going to kick your ass. Are you ready to compete with me? Right? And you've got to work like there's someone working 24 hours a day to take it away from you. Treating people equally is not the same, is not recognizing who they truly are and taking advantage of their skills. You know, and I've learned that through Cint. I've learned that through all this. And, you know, like Cint and I talk, we'll be a much better organization. I'll be a better exec. I'll be a better investor. I'll be a better shark because I recognize that, you know, treating people equally is not the same as treating them, recognizing their skills and their differences. And for this audience, it's critically important, you know. And I think there's an opportunity now, and I know hopefully, you know, people like me will recognize that the old white guys, now newly old white guys that are in positions of power, that there are things that you can do that I can't do. That there are things you see that I don't see. There are opportunities that you can create that I can't create. You know, we were trying to sell to the black community through the Mavs with multiple white men. We were trying to sell to moms with multiple white men. It's not that they're not capable. It's not that they're not skilled. It's just everybody brings something different to the table. And as an entrepreneur, you have to recognize what the differences are that you bring to the table, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself, right? You can't lie to yourself like we all lie to ourselves as entrepreneurs. But those differences can be part of your unique skill set, like I talked about earlier. And now I'm finally starting to recognize those things. And you know the one thing I know? It's gonna make me a shitload more money.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Elon Musk, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
When you think about education and self-education, what do you recommend?
I would encourage people to read a lot of books. Basically, try to ingest as much information as you can. Also, just develop a good general knowledge. Try to learn a little bit about a lot of things.